Diaries of a Madman. By What Must I Do? Chapter 198. Part 1 of 3. Author's note. I wanted to get through this coma, but it turns out this story is kinda long. Who knew writing a summary/recap would take this long? End author's note. We ended up in Africa, somewhat unsurprisingly. In front of us was a massive graveyard full of freshly dug plots and sobbing zebras. Several were covered in bandages. Behind us was the village, which seemed mostly deserted. That's a whole lot of graves, Taya said. Yeah, they didn't want Pertz to go, I replied, rubbing the back of my neck. But we weren't interested in taking no for an answer, so here we are. So, what, do you feel guilty about it or something? Taya asked. Not as far as I know, I said with a shrug. He got what was coming to him. The villagers allowed themselves to be swayed by him and then helped him do all kinds of evil shit, so as far as I'm concerned, they're just as guilty. I did fuck up while we were there, though. I let my heart get the better of me. Is that really so bad? Pride asked. It got us knocked out of the air, so yes, I said. I should have just let Zecora kill her sister. That would have been the smart thing, Reason said. Why was Zecora trying to kill her sister? Taya asked. Zecora's sister was the evil witch doctor lady, I said. Turns out, she was a complete bitch. When the two of them dueled, I asked Zecora to spare her because I didn't want to see family killing family. The bitch repaid us by building another evil mask and then attacking us as we ran. And then the water elementals had to save their lady in distress, Fear said with a giggle. Yeah, they sure are troopers. So, do we have any memories associated with this one? We do, Reason said. Are you ready? Yep. She reached up to poke us and we went off on our next adventure. We appeared in front of Watcher and Sentinel. They were sitting in the middle of a very misty forest. Given how close they were, I figured they were probably actually in his cabin on the ship and the tree thing was acting up again. So I take it talks broke down, Watcher said. There was never a chance we could have talked Pertz down, Sentinel said. He was keeping ponies as prisoners. He's insane. What's your take on the village? After seeing their soldiers, their fervor, and the number of prisoners they had, it's obvious they were a destabilizing force on the region. Our actions have fairly well depopulated it. With Pertz gone, the faith the zebras felt will hopefully fade away and they'll go back to a life of peace. Oh, I highly doubt that, Watcher said. How many do you think we killed or heavily injured? Enough that they won't have enough warriors to launch any more attacks for a while, Sentinel said. So, enough that they won't be able to defend against any attacks. What do you think is going to happen when all the villages around here learn that Pertz is gone? My bits are on them seeking revenge. I'd be surprised if that village lasts long, if we really did manage that much damage. Oh, we did, Sentinel said with a grim smile. Nav has put together quite the lethal team. Zecora's potions were quite useful. It sure is a shame she'll be leaving, she probably thought she hid all the smugness in her voice, but I picked up on it. What makes you think that? Watcher asked, lifting an eyebrow. Well, her curse is gone and we helped her deal with Pertz. Why else would she stay? Because we helped her cure her curse and deal with Pertz. Watcher slowly said. Sentinel's ears twitched. She's already decided to stay with us for a while. Oh. So how did our human conduct himself? Watcher asked. Do you have more complaints this time? He was much more abrasive with Pertz than I was comfortable with. But as I said, we all knew we weren't leaving without a fight, so I understand why. He adapted well when things went haywire and managed to lead us out of what by all rights could have been a suicide mission. I thought he would be more protective of Applejack and Spike, but he didn't hesitate to use either. Unexpected praise, coming from you. Did something in particular happen? He reacted faster than I did to a lot of what we encountered. Not only that, but he let us all out and allowed us to rescue the prisoners. Navarone is an acceptable combat commander. Combat commander. Not leader in general. He's too openly slutty. I don't care what he does privately, but when he brags about it, it becomes problematic for everyone. He's also generally antagonistic. He acts like he's apathetic, but I'm pretty sure it's just an act. Yes, some of his behaviors are worrying. But as you said, he's quite the acceptable combat leader. For now, that's enough. Although I have a feeling if he manages to upset Celestia anymore, he'll find himself with a noble title. And here we were trying to help Celestia, Sentinel said. Maybe we should have been making her mad. Only if you were also having sex with her. She can't punish Nav by executing him or giving him to the changelings, so she gives him more power and acclaim since he hates it. Not gonna lie. I'd absolutely do it with the princess. There isn't a pony alive who wouldn't praise the sun given the chance, Watcher said. Unfortunately, she has a thing for predators. Or monkeys. I guess there's no accounting for taste. Speak for yourself, Watcher said with a little grin. If Nav would just get over himself and accept that he's a she, I might be willing to help break that body in. Ugh, not you two. I figured you would be more interested in, mares. There's nothing wrong with a cute shapely mare, of course, Watcher said. But I mean, Nav's unique. It would be worth the sex for that alone. You've been all over the place now, Sentinel. Don't tell me you haven't been interested in trying out a few other races. I'm looking for something more than just fun. And I already have a target in mind. It's only a matter of time before he's mine. As Nav would say, cool beans. Do you have anything else to report? Pertz was doing some manner of forbidden magic. We'll need to make sure he's incapacitated on the return trip. Already taken care of, Watcher said with a nod. He's wearing Nav's anti-magic ring as an earring and there are a few water elementals inside of him to maintain control on the trip. Excellent. Zecora and her sister the demon worshipper both also used forbidden magic. That's fine, Watcher said. Her sister is dead anyway. And Zecora? Sentinel slowly said. Shouldn't we arrest her? Why? We don't work for Celestia anymore. And even if we did, everyone on this ship is sanctioned by her anyway. It doesn't matter what manner of illegal skills anyone here possesses. At the moment, we all have passes to do as we must to protect Equestria. Part of that is following Celestia's orders to apprehend dangerous criminals like Pertz. It doesn't matter how Zecora follows the order as long as it gets done. Sentinel stared at him silently for a few long, awkward seconds before sniffing. You leap to defend her, of course. And you leap to throw a friend and ally under the bus. That isn't like you. Did something happen between you two while you were down there? No. And I have nothing more to report. Her horn lit up and she teleported off before Watcher could say anything else. He rolled his eyes and fell into the bed. Ugh, mares. Tell me about it, I said as the memory faded. Taya, Sentinel has a huge crush on Watcher. Yeah, I know, Taya said. She's pretty obvious about it. I wouldn't be surprised if Watcher knows, too. He does, but that's not important. So what's the takeaway here? Just about everyone in your crew had the same few complaints, Fear said. And it's something you knew was a problem, too. Why did you let it go unsolved for so long? Because I was so depressed that I couldn't make myself care. I hated myself so much that I figured it was only a matter of time before everyone else hated me just as much, so I didn't make any attempts to stop the behavior that would lead to it. That's really sad, Taya said, jumping up to hug me. And you never told me any of this. I didn't want to burden you. But it's not like you ever talk to me about your problems, so you can't talk. That's because you always act all weird and disturbed when I do. Taya said. Flo told me the only reason you ask about my parents is because she forced you. Yep. I'm bad at being a person. Being forced to see how much some people seem to care about me has helped me realize that I can't be a completely terrible person forever. Especially now that I'm actually starting to feel ambition for the first time. When I get out, I intend to better myself in a lot of ways. Part of that will be dealing with complaints like sentinels. Good, Pride said. Another thing you might want to note is that Sentinel was trying to get Zakora off the ship. You need to be wary of things like that. I think I'll tell Watcher to have a talk with Sentinel, I said. Maybe he can explain to her that it's not gonna happen and that she needs to move on. I don't need people trying to backstab others on my ship. And he doesn't need to keep leading her along when he knows nothing's gonna happen. Taya very loudly coughed. You alright over there, honey? Oh come on, are you seriously telling me you can't see you're doing the same thing to a few of your toys? Taya asked. You knew there was probably never a chance for Gilda, and yet you made her your pet for a week or two straight. That's because she's so much fun to have sex with. She makes such cute noises. But when I make my choice, that won't be an issue anymore. Good, Taya said with a nod. So what's up next? Hey, this is my coma. I said. She lifted an eyebrow. So what's up next? Another memory, Pride said. You ready? I am, I said with a nod. He reached out and grabbed me by the vagina. Taya just got poked on the nose. I wanted to comment about how unfair that was, but we vanished before I could. This time, we appeared in a fairly nice restaurant. I had no idea where we were, but the table directly in front of us was taken up by Sentinel's squad, Applejack and Zakora. Applejack had a faraway look in her eyes. So if Sentinel hated Zakora so much, why are they out together? Taya asked. And why didn't they invite me? Do you know when this was? I asked. When the ship was getting repaired, Taya said. I recognize the restaurant. I guess you were fighting demons at the time. I was probably recuperating from fighting demons. Either that or almost getting assassinated. So let's see what this one is about. We both shut up and let the scene begin. That was quite the dicey mission, Sentinel said with a large grin. Working with Nav is more fun than working for the princess. When did you start liking danger? Onyx asked. He was the earth pony in her squad. Since we started working with predators, Sentinel said. I had my doubts at first, but having Spike, Nav, Caught and the Naga at our side made it a blast. That isn't quite the word I would use, Zakora said. She definitely wasn't smiling. To be fair, they were talking about massacring her village, so I could understand that. That we all came through unscathed is a blessing. Yeah, those friends of yours were crazy, Sentinel said. Zakora's lips tightened very slightly. They were no friends of mine. It was my village once, but they cast me out and turned to darkness. Are you all right, Applejack? Dense Fog asked. That was the Pegasus in their squad. You've been staring off into space since we got here. Applejack blinked and looked up. Sorry, She's been staring off into space longer than that, Zakora said. It weighs on your mind, does it not? I can't get it out of my head, Applejack quietly said, looking down again. I'm used to bucking trees, not ponies. I don't think I'll ever forget the feelings of my hooves pounding some pony into mush. Nope, you sure don't, Sentinel said. You do stop thinking about it after a while, though. That's what Nav said, too, Applejack said. We were kinda wondering, why'd you agree to fight, anyway? Onyx asked. You're way too cute to be risking your life. Sentinel kicked him for that, of course. What about me? You're too violent to be cute, Onyx said, rubbing the area where she kicked him. Plus, you don't have freckles. Freckles ain't cute. Applejack said, almost instantly blushing. See there, he said. Look how they stand out against her blush. Isn't it just adorable? Wouldn't you rather stay on the ship where it's safe? I ain't gonna sit around the ship, twiddling my hooves, while every pony else is risking their lives, Applejack said. And it's better that I go than any of the rest of my friends. I can agree with that, Sentinel said. Rainbow Dash might be good in a fight, if she could keep her head on straight. But as for the rest of your friends, I'd rather they stay on the ship. But still, he's right. There's 15 soldiers here. If you don't like fighting, let us do it for you. We're all experienced and none of us mind killing. I told Nav I would do it. I ain't gonna go back on my word, Applejack replied. Even if it don't feel right. That's dumb, Dense Fog said. Just tell Nav how you feel. You won't have to go back on your word because he'll just tell you not to worry about it anymore. He already offered to stop using me, Applejack quietly replied. But I have a feeling that if I don't volunteer, he'll use Rainbow Dash whenever he needs a normal-looking pony. I don't want her to have to go through any of that. Nah, he couldn't use Dash for that, Onyx said. He needs a normal-looking pony, not one who stands out more than a night guard. How long does it even take her to dye that? It's natural, surprisingly, Applejack said. She kicked Nav when he asked the same question. It isn't wise to force yourself to do something, Zakora said. If you feel misgivings about taking part in battle, it would be safer to sit it out. For both you and for those who depend on you. I ain't never gonna let no one down, I can guarantee that, Applejack quickly replied, finally looking up. Her eyes looked harder than usual. I may not like fighting, but that ain't gonna stop me. Nav forced himself to do it in the beginning and look where he is now. It can't be that bad. What, are you kidding? Sentinel said. I've seen better adjusted ponies in the psych ward. Hey, I've sent better adjusted ponies to Tartarus. She suddenly froze, then blinked. Wait, did you say he forced himself to fight? Well, the princess forced him to, Applejack said. From what he told us, she told him he could either follow her orders and go to Egypt or he could go to prison for life. There were several times when she did that to him. Yeah, that sounds like Celestia, Dense Fog said. Isn't that the deal you got, Sentinel? It sure was, she said with a nod. I was a bandit before, though. I guess Nav was doing something just as bad. Nope, Applejack said, shaking her head. Twilight accidentally summoned him here from the past, tearing him away from his life, friends, and family. He was just living in Ponyville and minding his own business. Luna eventually took a liking to him and introduced him to Celestia. Apparently she also took a liking to him. I honestly don't know too much. I didn't spend too much time with him. Understandable, Sentinel said with a nod. But still. I kinda wonder what he was like before the two sisters did all that to him. He usually tried to be nice, but it was obvious he wasn't happy, Applejack said. He also lied a whole lot. I still don't know his real name. I don't think he had the best upbringing. But it ain't fair to talk about some pony who ain't around. You wanna know about Nav? Ask him. I have, Zakora said. He didn't tell me much. So did I, Onyx said. He proceeded to list off all the royalty he's had sex with. I was 3/4 impressed, 1/4 grossed out. It's time we wrote a bestiary for Nav, Zakora said with a nod. I think enough ponies out there are interested in him that it would make some decent money. Isn't Twilight already working on that? Fog asked. She's been sharing her notes with the crew and they're quite, thorough. That's Nav in a pony body, Applejack said. Besides, describing how sexy his orgasms are has nothing to do with Nav as a person. It, does make for some interesting reading, though. I'll say, Taya whispered with a giggle. I thumped her ear. I thought the purpose of using a pen name was nobody finding out. Also, I thought she was writing guides for BDSM, not literal smut. Anyway, back to the main point, Onyx said. You're definitely pretty enough to protect. Why would you want to fight? I already answered that, Applejack said. I'm gonna keep to what I said. If Nav needs me, I'll go, end of story. And if you keep up with calling me pretty and cute, I'm letting you get my tab. Only if I get to call it a date, he replied with a grin. The memory turned grey and faded away before we could hear her answer. All right, I see a few possible takeaways here, I said. Maybe letting Twilight write those books was a bad idea. No way. Taya said. There's zero chance Twilight gave you a copy of those books, I said, crossing my arms. Of course not, Taya said. I bought them. Wait, the people at the bookstore sold those books to a filly. Nope, she said. They sold them to the giant hulking Naga who barely fit through their door. I just told him which ones to get. And Ames just bought you smut without batting an eye. I slowly ask. I use him to buy a lot of things, Taya said. Do you really want to keep asking questions about this, Mommy? You're probably gonna hear some things you might not want to. Alright, you know what, fine, I said. I guess it's time to ask the question. You said earlier you would be fine with me using the elementals to shape your mind however I wanted, right? So would you mind if I just used them to erase this crush? I find it creepy, everyone around us finds it disturbing, and if we were more in the public eye, it would cross over into unacceptable. I can't believe it took you this long to ask. Go for it, Mommy. I want you to love me, not find me creepy. So feel free to use the elemental you enslaved to kill all the parts of your loving, adorable little filly that you hate until she's your perfect little angel. You hear that, Flo? You have her permission. I guess we're kinda stuck in time at the moment, so I'm not sure if they can really interject, but we can get to it later if not. Are you sure this is wise? Reason ask. You were the one who was advocating for a little bit of mind control earlier, weren't you? I ask. Taya already knew I was considering it before I entered the coma, although I decided against it in the end. But if she's cool with it and she's having this much trouble holding it in, we need to handle it before it becomes a problem. This way, she can look outward for that kind of relationship instead of trying to turn to me. Taya scoffed. I think we already established that nobody but another immortal would ever be interested in me. That's quitter talk, I said. Although long-term relationships with a mortal wouldn't be advisable for a lot of reasons, unless you're doing it for a good enough reason. Wait, what happens if you married Gilda and she died of old age? Taya asked. Would you still be royalty? Probably not, but she was talking about making the same potion you did. If she does, that wouldn't be an issue anymore. So, back to takeaways. I shouldn't have asked Applejack to fight. Why did you? Taya asked. You had plenty of soldiers. Why bring her? Because I wasn't sure how we'd be received, I said. All of the night ponies were scary and we had a few predators, so I wanted someone who looked relatively normal. It ended up not mattering. As Sentinel said, Pertz was insane and there was no reasoning with him. We'd have been just as well off leveling the village from afar using the siege weapons on the ship, especially since Celestia turned around and killed Pertz when we got back. You're getting good at these, Fear said. How's it feel to finally have your eyes open to your failings? My eyes have always been wide open to my failings, I said. That's all I ever seem to see in my mind, which is why I hate myself so much. This coma is helping me see the good in me, of which there happens to be little. But if you're gonna be passive-aggressive about it, I'll let you do your jobs. Please tell me where I erred, ghosts of Christmas spirit. Everyone wants to know more about you, Pride said. Yet you refuse to tell even your Philly a thing. At the moment, Twilight is one of the few you've actually said anything to. You have happy memories, Nav. What's the harm in sharing them? I've always wanted to know more about you, Taya said. About your family and where you came from. I know it's not all good, but I don't care. I wanna know anyway. When it comes to talking about myself, my mind usually blanks, I said. A lot of what does come up is usually unpleasant, since that's what's most prominent. But you're right, I've been too clammed up for too long. I already plan to do an interview with some kind of newspaper or something when I get out. I guess I can also start telling more people about the less shitty parts of my past. You're telling me the shitty parts, too, Taya said. If you say so, I replied, tousling her mane. What do you think about an interview, Fear? I think it's a great way to take advantage of that stage fright of yours, Fear said with a big smile. Don't worry, you'll definitely say a bunch of things they can take out of context to make you seem like a sex-obsessed monster. Taya, you want to roll the dice of fate? I ask. What does that mean? She slowly asked. I want to kill Fear before we get out. What do you think? As I expected, Fear didn't react at all to the news. Didn't you say there were repercussions for that? Taya asked. What might that do to you? Make me fearless, Day. Another flow appeared. She had a very disapproving look on her face. You told us both to stay out of it and I was willing to do that up until now. But Nav, you can't just kill a part of you. Sure I can. That is, if they're telling the truth. Flo slid over and grabbed me by the shoulders so she could loom over me like a bully. One of your biggest faults is how short-sighted you can be. Think, Nav. If you're not afraid of being wrong anymore, you'll stop listening to the advice of anyone and turn into another Celestia. You also won't be afraid to put lives at stake to accomplish your goals. Your fear and hesitation are part of what makes you a good leader. I think it would be neat, but I gotta agree with her, Taya said. I want you to be more emotional, not less. I do like the idea of my mommy being completely fearless and the thought of killing your internal sense of fear sounds really cool, but also kinda dumb. I mean, I'm sure there are all kinds of consequences we wouldn't be able to think about even if we took a couple of weeks to do it. Think how beneficial that could be to someone like Discord, Flo said. I guarantee he can find a way to take advantage of the fact that you can't feel fear. He can also take advantage of the fact that I can feel fear. At this point, I'm already not really afraid of him. Now that I know he's not going to kill me, he's mostly just really annoying. Although I am absolutely afraid of marrying him and I would infinitely rather die than let that happen. Mommy, don't be dumb, you're better than that, Taya said. Fine, I won't be a total baller and literally kill my sense of fear, I said, rolling my eyes. So, Flo, while you're here, you mind doing a little snip-snip with my filly? Yes, I would mind that very much. You seem to swing from liking mind control to not liking it quite a lot. I guess it depends on its application. If it's turning somebody into something they don't want to be and that someone happens to be a person I care about, then I don't really like it. But if it's helping them be a more healthy person and they're either being a shitbag like Celestia or having trouble changing like Taya, I don't see any reason not to use it. I mean, Taya's cool with it, I'm cool with it, so I don't see the big deal. And you see nothing wrong with mind controlling your filly? Fear asked. I just answered that question, I said. In this context, sure. Besides, Flo, you did things to Cod and Fluttershy. Why's Taya any different? She's even asking for it. Wasn't your excuse before that it was for my benefit? Well, this would also be for my benefit. Nav, she's your filly, Flo said. Fine, I said. You're the one that's actually in her head right now. What do you think the solution to her crush is? She stared at me in silence for a few seconds. Yeah, That's what I thought. I can't make someone fall out of love. You can, though. It would remove the pain from both me and Taya. Isn't that a kindness? Just because we cannot currently think of a solution doesn't mean we should take the first immediate option, Flo said. Especially when it's a deplorable option. Justifying evil little by little is what Celestia did. I would not have you turn down the same path. Fine, Jesus. Do you have anything else you want to ruin while you're at it? Maybe tell me that Snape kills Dumbledore or something. He does what? Taya shouted, making me flinch. Oh, way to go, Flo said, rolling her eyes. Did you forget we translated that series, too? Did you really spoil it for me? Taya demanded. You'll have to read it to find out, I said. Maybe I was joking. Now, can we keep moving or what? I will allow it, if you answer one question, Flo said. Why won't you let me participate? You've come to a lot of interesting conclusions. I feel like I could help focus your thoughts and act as a rational counterpart to the spirits. Are you saying we're not rational? Reason asked. I'm saying that you're designed to fit a role, not to be a complete person, Flo replied. Well, what makes you think Nav is even any different? Reason asked. Maybe part of why she's so fucked up is because Discord made her that way. He wanted a chaotic agent, so maybe he did something to Nav's head before releasing her. Another reason it might be useful to have me here is because I can identify when something these things say is one of your secret inner fears, Flo said. You worry that Discord doomed you to fail in some way, that you're being reborn over and over just to suffer and die at his whim with no chance at all of success. Yeah, I'm acutely aware of all of that, I said. I don't really need you around to point it out. The answer to why I don't want you here with me is that I'm tired of being told what to do and what to think by people who are eternally old. You can offer your input on things later. For now, I'd like to do this with my filly. So you don't trust me, she slowly replied, turning very blue. Your words, not mine, I said, poking her on the nose. I can just as easily turn it around and say that you're guilt-tripping me. So chillax, fam. I got this shit on lock. Flo sighed, picked me up, and hugged me. It honestly felt a little demeaning, but I bore it for her sake. I never knew raising a human would be this hard, she whispered into my hair. Yeah, now you know why my parents didn't bother, I said. She gently set me down and patted my head. It's okay, though. I love you regardless. Her watery form seemed to grow a few inches so she could loom over me with a strange grin. And I always will. With that, she darted in to kiss me on the forehead. Before I could do anything, she vanished. All right, let's get back to it, I said. I think we were talking about how using Applejack as a soldier wasn't a good idea. We were, Fierce said. Before that hussy rudely interjected to save me. You put Applejack in a position where she had to kill. Sorta. Celestia forced Applejack to stay on the ship with everyone. Applejack chose to work with the soldiers knowing that she might have to fight. It was definitely me who made the decision to bring her on the trip, but I had her consent to do it. I don't like that she's suffering, but I don't really feel guilty because of it. Of course not, Pride said. Why would you? She played her role as a soldier and helped bring you a ton of glory in Canterlot. Bringing in Pertz was enough to elevate you to the nobility, wasn't it? That has nothing to do with it, although all of that is true, I said. Anyway, I don't intend to use her again, not unless I don't have a choice. With Celestia on my side, I can get as many soldiers as I want. Not on board the ship, though, Taya said. It's kinda limited. Assuming we keep using the same ship, I said. There's nothing out there saying we can't upgrade. There's also nothing out there saying I can't get more. I intend to do both. With the addition of teleportation circles, we can get reinforcements wherever we need. So, Do we have other takeaways for this? Just one, Reason said. And it's something we've already touched on. All of the ponies are curious about you. Even members of your own crew didn't know how you came to be in Equestria. Do the interview when you get out. Got it. Then I guess let's zoom on to the next bit. As you wish, Fear said. Right after she said that, someone screamed. Taya and I jumped and spun around. I had kinda forgotten we were still in the zebra village, so I was surprised when I saw all the locals panicking. A large group of lions and gorillas were bearing down on them. Parts of the village were already burning. After you left, a few others paid the village a visit, Reason said. I had a feeling they didn't want any survivors to continue spreading evil. Or they wanted revenge, Pride said. They did have the Lion King prisoner, after all. Simba better count his blessings, I said. And it serves these assholes right. You think the survivors deserved to be massacred? Reason asked. I wouldn't say they deserved it, but since they supposedly participated in their own share of massacres, I'd say it's only fair. I also don't really want to watch, so can we move on? We can, the guide said. But only if you poke me on the nose, too. I rolled my eyes and did so. Thank you, I needed that. Her eyes flashed and we finally took off. We appeared in one of Canterlot's many fancy buildings. Fleur was in a cute and fancy dress. Her face looked very determined. Blossom was trailing behind her and seemed a little worried. At the moment, they were briskly strolling down a hall. I sighed and hurried to follow. Are you sure about this? Blossom whispered. Completely positive, Fleur replied, not bothering to stay quiet. What's the point of having power and influence if you don't swing it around when it counts? If Nav was as distraught as you said, it's time we stepped in to help. How can you be sure this won't backfire? Blossom hissed. I've never even heard about Nav actually telling some pony his problems. If trying to help goes wrong, he may never do it again. Better to try something and fail than do nothing and watch our friend continue to suffer. Surely a part of you agrees, or else you wouldn't have decided to tell me. She finally reached the door she wanted and stopped. If you aren't sure, you can stay here. But I intend to rectify this immediately. Well, I did tell Nav I would help fix this. But are you sure barging in like this is the best way? Yes. You've shown off your secret powers, Captain Blossom. Now it's my turn to do the same. Without another word, she thrust the door open. The scene jumped and we were all in the room. It appeared to be a reporter's office. A few newspapers with major headlines were pinned to the walls. One shelf contained nothing but broken typewriters. Another had tons of books. A yellow unicorn mare was sitting behind a desk, staring appraisingly at Fleur. Blossom no longer looked nervous, at least. Fleur had a very friendly grin on her face. This is quite the early visit, Lady Fleur and Captain Midnight, the reporter said. Do you have some kind of lead for me? I actually had a few questions about an article you printed recently, Fleur said. She glanced over at the wall where some papers were hanging and used magic to yank one down. This one, specifically. Sure enough, it was the article that told everyone I was a chick and had been wearing a butt plug while fighting demons. It also included a few blurred pictures of my unconscious and bleeding body. What kind of questions would require the captain of the guard? The reporter asked. I'm off duty, Blossom said with a toothy grin. So for now, you can call me Midnight. I think I'll stick to Captain. So what questions do you have? Why did you write it? Fleur asked, still smiling ever so sweetly. Because it's news, the chick said with a huff. Let me guess, your lover sent you here to quash the news and told her attack pony to go with you to make sure it happens. My lover. The reporter's horn lit up and another article pulled off the wall, this one showing Celestia molesting Fleur. Yes, your lover. Celestia wouldn't want any bad news going out about her favorite pet assassin, would she? Oh, she's one of those people. I believe you misunderstand, Fleur said. No pony sent me. I'm here of my own volition, as is Midnight. We both just happen to be friends of Nav and are quite concerned with a few of the details covered here. Then take it up with that human, the reporter said. We only print the truth here, so if you don't like what's there, blame her. Does the concept of a private life ring a bell to you? Blossom asked. How could you just print this without permission? Easily, the mayor said with a nod. Nav's personally threatened to murder at least 3 of my reporters, and threatened to trump up charges to arrest a few more. So I don't see any reason at all I shouldn't print whatever I want about her, as long as I can prove it's true. For some reason, that made Taya giggle. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest that either of you would be friends with that cutthroat. Well, I'm not quashing the story. Don't be silly, Fleur said. Of course you're quashing the story. Not only are you quashing it, but you'll be helping us cover it up, too. The mayor rolled her eyes. You are now trespassing. Captain, I would like this mayor removed. Blossom didn't move, of course. I dunno, I think we should hear her out, she said. I'm glad you agree, Fleur said. Now, let me tell you why you'll be obeying me. I know where every single bit of your funding comes from. The mayor's ears dropped. Captain, how serious of a crime is sedition? That would be a life sentence in a changeling hive, Blossom said. Where exactly does her money come from? Why, you see, that's just the thing, Fleur said. She seems to be funded by all sorts of fun parties. It took all kinds of digging to find them all, but I knew I'd need the blackmail material eventually. Let's see. She has sources of income among the deer, the griffins, a few of the dog groups, the minotaurs, and she used to have a changeling. All of them send income along with stories and wording requests. Essentially, they're paying her to churn out propaganda of all kinds, some of which is anti-equestrian. I'd like to see your proof, the mayor quietly said. Would you? Fleur said. Because if I bring that out, my friend here might have to get back on duty. Isn't that right, Midnight? I absolutely can't ignore evidence of a crime, Blossom said, flashing her fangs again. But talk. Well, talk is just talk, isn't it? You really should choose your messengers more carefully, Fleur said with a giggle. It only took a few blowjobs and a hoofful of bits to get them to make copies of everything for me. I can't believe you're just going to let her blackmail me, the reporter yelled, glaring at Blossom. Would you prefer the alternative? Fleur asked, taking a step closer. Nav has told me stories about the changeling hives. Do you know what would happen to you if you were sentenced to one? Blackmail is illegal. And sedition is worse, Fleur said. The penalty matches. Let me describe your fate. You'll be arrested immediately. Your trial will be swift and final. Your competitors will immediately take note and instantly destroy you in the press. The mayor's head sank to the table. Your life will be over, your business will be gone, your name will be ruined, and that will only be the start. Once you arrive at the changeling hive, you'll be force-fed love poison, which will make you the obedient slave of the first changeling you look at. They'll tell you that they want you to be their pet. Your mind will alter and you'll essentially act as their pet. The poor reporter began to cry. Since you're still young and relatively attractive, you'll almost definitely be sent to feed the drones. None of them are intelligent at all and only deal in base instincts. An important thing to note is that changelings can lay eggs in ponies, so sex with pets is not only allowed, but encouraged. You'll be fed on and bred by mindless drones over and beg for more each time. That is your fate if you disobey me, Clementine. So, how about we get started on your new story, shall we? I think it should highlight Nav's epic fight against the demons. Doesn't that sound nice? It sounds much better to me, Blossom said. How about it, Clem? Would you like to press blackmail charges and end up in a hive, or would you like to let talk be talk and help us write a better story? I'll do it, the mare meekly replied, still crying. That's a good filly, Fleur said, still grinning. Don't you cry, silly. We'll help you clean up your mess and turn it into a much nicer story. For some reason, that only made her cry harder. And that was the end of the memory. That was kinda hot, I said. But also a little scary. Did you really threaten to murder them? Taya asked. I dunno, probably. You did, Rage said. And they deserved it, too. So what's the context for this one? Taya asked. I couldn't get a good look at the article Fleur was trying to censor. After my last fight, I got my wing cut off, I said. When the fight was over, Flo let me pass out. There wasn't a medical tent up and they needed to look for other injuries, so they stripped me. There also happened to be a large crowd around. This was before everyone knew I was a chick, so that was a surprise to a lot of people. They also saw a few other things I would have preferred not seen. What was Blossom saying about you telling her your problems? Oh. When she told me about the article, I was upset. She pressed me for why and I sorta ranted at her. I knew she and Fleur handled it, but I didn't know how. Wait, so you'll rant at Blossom about your problems, but not your own filly? Taya demanded. Yeah. Adults are supposed to seek help from their friends. They aren't supposed to seek help from their fillies. I need to shelter and insulate you from my problems so you can be a happy, bubbly little filly. What, are you kidding? Taya asked. I'm only being slightly sarcastic. I wouldn't feel right burdening you with everything. Blossom just happened to be in the right place at the right time while being at the perfect adorable level. Or Flo made you do it, Payne said. That's also possible. Maybe. But I still think it was the right thing to do. If Flo made you think that, of course you would, Rage said. So what you're saying is that I'm not adorable enough yet? Taya slowly asked. I'm sorry, but you can't really beat vampires, I said with a shrug. You're a close enough second, at least. What I'm saying is that I don't want to burden you. Why not? Taya asked. I became your Eternifili so I could help you with your burdens. And there will be times when you do. But there are some other things you aren't well suited to handle. If I came to you for this problem, you would have just gone in and threatened to murder them again. Blossom actually got it fixed. By using blatant corruption, Payne said. Isn't it nice to have powerful friends who don't care if they break the law for you? It sure is, I said. I honestly didn't expect Blossom was that kind of mare. Your pole ruins everything it touches, Rage said. You turned Blossom into putty in your subtle hands. It's no wonder she went from a bastion of justice to just another crooked cop. That's not necessarily fair, I said. The princesses were the ones who said she was a bastion of justice. I have no clue if she was or not. For all I know, she's always been corrupt. But yet, my pole probably did ruin her. Way to go, Mommy, Taya sarcastically replied, rolling her eyes. You've made yet another very powerful mare your ally, just completely ruining her. I'm glad you understand the gravity of the situation. So what are the takeaways here? We already covered them, Payne said. You made Blossom corrupt. And Fleur did something illegal in your name. Then I guess I'm ready to move on, I said. We should probably discuss one more thing, my guide said. You so casually brushed over threatening murder. Is that truly wise? No. But I also can't change the past, so it's whatever I guess. Threatening murder is whatever you guess, my guide mockingly replied. It sounds kinda bad when you say it, I replied. Still doesn't bother me, Taya said with a shrug. Didn't Rage say they deserved it? They were just asking to interview someone who is very newsworthy, my guide said. They were doing their jobs. Then maybe they should have chosen a different career path, Rage said. Nobody likes vultures. That's human media, my guide said. You've never given pony media a chance, Nav. I haven't, and I intend to rectify that. If I remember, I'll apologize to the reporters. Threatening them may have been a little rude. Ugh, boring, Taya groaned. Right? So, can we move on now or what? We may, my guide said. She cosplayed a Goa'uld and we vanished. End of part 1.